closer look at Papyrus 46 and Ephesians 3:9. And Dr. Riddle mentions a individual who goes under the, it's just called CC. And CC had pointed to P46 and Ephesians 3:9 and said, take a look at P46 in the NTV-MR, that's the New Testament virtual manuscript room. It seems to me that it only reads koinonia. A case could be made that the exemplar had koinonia, omicron rather than omega, and the I got squished into the N, and the second N, well, nu, and the second nu became mu. The transcription includes the omicron iota in red brackets, but those letters aren't actually on the page. And then Dr. Riddle says, and indeed, when I took a look at P46, the evidence in favor of the MCT, modern critical text, is not as clear as it first seems. Here's a larger picture of the section in question. Here's a close-up of the section at the end of the line. And here is a close-up of the beginning of the next line. Da-da-da-da-da. Here's the conclusion. This closer look reveals that P46, the earliest manuscript of Ephesians 3:9, is at the least not a clear witness to the oikonomia reading. Textual scholars will say the possibility, will suggest the possibility that the oi, the beginning, oikonomia, was either omitted by error or that it was there and the ink was rubbed away. CC suggests an alternate possibility. The exemplar had koinonia, omicron rather than omega. This would, in fact, argue in favor of the TR reading of koinonia. My friends, this is dangerous, and it's as false as it can be, and we are now going to refute it completely in the hopes that any fair-minded person will recognize that this kind of dogged attempt to read an error from over 1,000 years after the original into the earliest manuscripts against all the evidence, if they're willing to do this, is there any reason to think that any of the argumentation they're bringing forth has any merit at all? This is an abuse of the papyri, which they attack anyways as being, Dr. Riddle couldn't say papyri at the conference without saying the vaunted papyri. I've been trying to warn people for years, and now we're seeing this movement's becoming more and more radical as it goes on. And here's an example. So we're going to demonstrate where the error... Now, I don't have any evidence. And in fact, there were comments that Dr. Riddle made where he was thanking Elijah Hickson for helping him to navigate some of the online resources. Most of us who work in this field use those online resources pretty regularly and wouldn't need help navigating them. As far as I can tell, the vast majority of Dr. Riddle's published works, he's written over 20 book reviews and 8 articles, almost all of which have been published in journals very friendly to a particular narrow reform spectrum. I know of no books. I know of no graduate or postgraduate teaching. He is an adjunct in humanities at a community college. And so the comments here need to be refuted because they are in error. Now, if I'm guessing correctly, Dr. Riddle will not watch this. He will take second-hand descriptions from somebody else and respond to that. Because for some reason, it seems like he will not use my name. He calls me the PIA, the Popular Internet Apologist, which is better than being the UIA, the Unpopular Internet Apologist. And I've just gotten the distinct feeling, given how the few times in the past he's tried to respond, he was not going, he won't do scholarship. He won't do original sources. He won't look at it. I think he feels like that would somehow be giving me credibility that I don't deserve. Having only written 20 books, taught textual criticism, numerous different places in the graduate level. Doesn't matter. He won't do that. So we're going to look at it. and I've put together a little presentation. We're going to dig into a papyri today. So let's start with this. Let me show you. This is a screen from the Center for the Study of New Testament Manuscripts. This is P46 at CSNTM. Yeah, let's pop it up. Here, I want you to see something here. These are the various images of P46, okay? Now, are you seeing something? Look at the form and the shape. This is in Romans 16. The form and the shape of the manuscript. On the one side, it's called recto and verso. So on the one side, you'll notice, here's the top. See where the pointer is? So at the top, the normal, if you have a full page of a codex papyrus. So here would be your binding right here. So this is the outer margin. And you can see at the upper corner, and then much more so the lower portion is where the damage takes place. And that makes sense. See? So let me go down to Ephesians 3. Now, wait a minute. Go over it, zoom in on this side. Now, on this side, see how it's just the opposite. So here's where the binding was, and here's just the opposite. All right? So let's go down to Ephesians. Notice that Hebrews comes right after Romans. Whatever that means. But here is Ephesians 2:10. All right? So you can see, same formation. Here's Ephesians 3:11, and here's Ephesians 2:21, which goes down to 3:10. This is our page right here. Well, these are both the same. One has a black background, one has a white background. But notice, here's the margins, but notice how much of the page is now missing out here. And then the bottom here. And then some damage up toward the top, though very frequently the upper corner damage doesn't necessarily impact the text because of the fact that it normally doesn't go nearly as far into the page as it does on the bottom. Because you think of a book, if you look at your own books, where's the damage? That's where the damage is going to be, especially if you put it on a shelf. That the weight of the book is pushing on that side. So here is the page that we'll be looking at right here. And the nice thing here, you'll notice you can zoom in. And in fact, there is the term right there, kanamia. Kanamia. Let me blow it up even more. Kanamia tu mysteriou. All right? Now, if you are, and by the way, there's a nomina sacra, chi rho upsilon with an I, that's Christou, the genitive form. Tu Christou. Now we're gonna have to keep these big. We're gonna have to keep these up. Nobody needs to be seeing me anyways. So if you are used to reading your Nestle Island 28th edition or UBS 5th or the Tyndale House Greek New Testament, by the way, I haven't told you this yet, Rich, but I'm getting a little something for Christmas. I'm going to have, and we're going to have it. Yeah, this is going to be something that's going to be, it's just going to live right here in the studio. It's going to be the normal thing I pick up. But I've been talking with Jeffrey Rice.
Grab your wallet.
No. I'm doing this. But one of my favorite Bibles that I got from my mom after she died, and you realize January will be 10 years. Hard to believe, isn't it? Rich knew my mom. Rich came over and had my dad's turkey and dressing and stuff like that. And 10 years. Yep, 2010. 10th anniversary anyways. Anyway, so one of the things I got from her was a red lambskin New Schofield Bible. And I remember as a kid, I loved to hold that Bible because it was so soft and smooth. That was one of the few things I got from my mom. And so I started talking with Jeffrey, and I'm like, "You ever worked in lambskin?" He says, "Yeah, I can get lambskin." So I have gotten a very nice. It's already leather bound. It's very nice. Tyndale House Greek New Testament. So it's got the gold pages. And he's binding that. And he said he got the leather yesterday, and he said, "This is a whole lot better than I expected it to be. This is awesome lambskin." So I'm going to have a Jeffrey Rice bound red lambskin Tyndale House Greek New Testament. This is going to sort of live somewhere right around here. I'm not sure when I'm going to get it, but I'm looking forward to it. Anyway, this wasn't written on lambskin. In case anyone is wondering, how did he take a right-hand turn there? I just took a little bit of a turn there. This manuscript, if you're used to your UBS or your Tyndale House or whatever, that's where the turn took place. You have a hard time reading this. And the reason you have a hard time reading this is this is in, technically, the term is majuscule text versus minuscule. But it's often called uncial. Now, uncial is technically a certain distance, but let's not argue about it. All capital forms, no spaces between words, and almost no punctuation. And this is how the New Testament was copied for the first 900 years of its life. And so what you're looking at is line after line of capital letters. No verses, sometimes you'll have paragraph breaks in some manuscripts, sometimes you don't, sometimes there are differences. You've got the Eusebian canons, that's all of the stuff. But as far as actually reading it, most people who've only taken seminary level Greek just enough to get by would just look at this and go, no. What is this? Most of the letters actually are fairly recognizable, but you just have to know what the capitalized forms were. You have to know the final form sigmas. Here's a sigma over here. It doesn't look like a sigma that most people would recognize. It looks like a C. So there are issues like that. So you look at this, and what you need to realize is, okay, here's the margin. Now, if I bring up, let me see here. Okay, how do I, thank you. Let me pop something up here for you. Let me show you, oh, good grief. Don't tell me I didn't, yeah, I upgraded accordance after the last program. Let's hope it works. Let me show you what the reading is in my New Testament textual window here. I got to get to it first. Ephesians 3:9. Okay. So let's look at let me see what the textual interlinear would. No, textual interlinear is not going to do it. Oh, New Testament manuscripts. That's what I want. Now performing search. That's great. That unfortunately takes a moment. I want to be able to show you the various manuscripts and what they look like. And I should have had this up and ready to give it to you. I have a presentation I'll show you here in a moment in Keynote, so I can drag the text right onto it. But what you will see when you compare this will show the parallel between Sinaiticus, Vaticanus. I have Washingtonianus in it, but Washingtonianus doesn't contain Ephesians, obviously. Alexandrinus, and then in the right-hand column will appear the Greek New Testament papyri, which will sometimes be more than one papyrus that contains a particular section. It won't be for Ephesians 3:9. This is taking an exceedingly long period of time to do this. I don't know why, but it is. But we're slowly getting there. At least it won't have a little hourglass going around like we used to have. Get a drink of water while we're waiting. I'm hearing the CPU running feverishly in the background. I'm not sure why this is. It's normally much, much quicker than this. Maybe I have too many programs open. And as you'll notice, there's nothing in Genesis 1:1. There shouldn't be. Okay, Ephesians 3:9. I'm going to take Washingtonianus out here for the moment. Looks like a bunch of small stuff to everybody. I get that. But here in Ephesians 3:9, here in Sinaiticus, you have the oikonomia, the plan to mysteriou of the mystery. Vaticanus, oikonomia. Alexandrinus, here's oi, but notice something. You have oikonomia. So one thing you need to understand about unsealed text is unsealed text will break a word, does not use a dash when it does. It will simply break a word and continue on the next line when the scribe gets to where he thinks the outer margin should be. This is how the writing is done. You can look all the way through these manuscripts, and you will find words being broken up over and over and over again. So, for example, Ephesians 3:14. You have down here, Sinaiticus, you have campto. But in P46, it's cam, next line, to. Cam, pato. So, there you don't put any emphasis on breaking its syllables or using any of the modern types of conventions that we would normally utilize in that situation. All right. Now, why is that important? Well, that is important because of the fact that when we look at the preceding line, we notice. Let's just notice a couple things here. And if we can sort of make that as big as we can, here is your outer margin. Okay, so if I were to do this, here's the outer margin. Well, you're noticing there's, if we look, for example, right here, you can see that there was writing here, but this letter is almost completely gone. And if we look carefully enough, we will see, you see this, like this, and it goes like that, and it goes like this, and it comes around here like this. You know what that is? That's a water stain. That's where the manuscript has, and whenever anybody picks on the manuscripts because they have damage, my statement worldwide when presenting this stuff always is, what are you going to look like in 1,800 years? You ain't going to look nearly as good as these papyri are.
1,800 years you are old.
That's right. So, but the point is, see this here? There's a border. That's where water has come. Now, when water comes onto a manuscript like this, it takes ink off. How do we know that? Look over here. Let me back it up a little bit. Look at this whole section right here. It goes up to here, goes up there, comes down here. What's happened? Somebody spilled their Starbucks or whatever else it was, their tea or whatever, at some point, and you can see the letters in this area are severely degraded. Severely degraded. And when you get over to the margin, some of them are just gone. And what happens to be gone? the first two letters of oikonomia. Now, let me go to the presentation I put together for you on the plane. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. All right, I'll get this. Now, I can't go to the presentation thing because then my mouse won't drag stuff around. So, all right, so here is P46. By the way, P46 is the earliest manuscript we contain that has Paul's writings. It is between 180 and 200. Some people would date it a little bit after that, but most people are right around 200. As such, it's extremely important. It's in the Chester Beatty Library in Dublin, Ireland. I've told a number of stories about getting in trouble with security because I got down on my hands and knees to look up at the manuscript to be able to read it because the light was at an angle, and I figured the people in the security booth thought we were worshiping the manuscripts. We weren't, but anyway. Now, we read the speculations of the TR-only people that this might have read koinonia. I do not know of a single textual scholar who actually works papyri in the world, that would say that. And I'll show you why. A number of years ago, I happened to locate and have been using in my teaching and research for a long time now, fonts that have been built upon the early papyri. And one of the fonts that I have is P46. And so it is a font that is based upon the normative formation of letters by the scribe of P46. And so I have spelled out here koinomia, which would be the spelling of the word, the oi at the other line. We're going to look at end line. We're going to look at that in a moment, see where it went. But oikonomia is the reading of all the manuscripts other than 2817. All the manuscripts of the first 1,000 years. Every translation into every other language, the Latin, the Syriac, the Bohairic, the Sahidic, the Coptic, they all say the same thing. None of them say koinonia. Not a single Christian for a millennium ever saw koinonia in their text. There's no evidence of it. None. There is no evidence. But the TR-only guys are still out there, and they've got their text. And they'll do with the facts anything they've got to do with the facts to come up with something. And so we read, and we heard Dr. Jeffrey Riddle. This closer look reveals that P46, the earliest manuscript of Ephesians 3:9, is at the least not a clear witness to the oikonomia reading. Really? Folks, remember the last time we did something like this? Remember the last time I put this may not have been the last time, but it wasn't that long ago. It was within 3 years, I think, that I put a manuscript up on the screen and we did this kind of blow it up and look at it. Remember what it was? It was P66 at John chapter 20. You remember why we were doing it? Because a Muslim pointed out that John 20:28, my Lord and my God, is not in P66. But that's because P66 is fragmentary at that point. And so we dove into it and explained, if you have the consistency of all the manuscripts and citations, and then you have a fragmentary manuscript that's simply been damaged in time, as almost all manuscripts have, especially that are that ancient, you have no basis for ever assuming that the damaged portion somehow has some reading other than what's found in every other source that you have, contemporaneous or within a reasonable period of time of that original writing. Same thing here. So here's koinomia. I put it in P46, the P46 font. And so I'm going to drag it on up here. And let's see if it... Oh, look at that. It's identical. There are no omegas in there. There are no iotas that have been squished into a nu. It says kanamia. Yeah, we already knew that. Here, I'll just put it down below it. Yeah. That's exactly what it reads, isn't it? Kanamia. Now notice, the Omicron's a little small. It's a little bit larger here. It's about similar to that one. But they're all formed the same way. The news, yeah, look at that nu. There's a nu there. Mu, well, you got this one here. You got this one here. That's the beginning of Musterion. And you've got the up, over, out, up, over, out. Same form, just like you have in the font. Because that's how this scribe writes muse. There's no evidence of an omega. There is no evidence that this was an iota squished into something else. There is absolutely, positively no reason outside of a wild-eyed dedication to the Textus Receptus to see this as anything other than kanamia. That's what P46 says. That's the reading. Anyone who suggests otherwise is doing so not because there's any factual or truthful reason to do so. It's because they have an agenda. And they're willing to pervert the historical evidence to promote their agenda. Christians should not be doing this, my friends. And when you find them doing it, you might want to stay away from them. Now, they'll say, but it doesn't say oikonomia. Well, I suppose if you are not used to reading papyri, and you might say, oh, like you are. Yeah, I am. I'm in the second year of a PhD program in P45. Do you think I haven't been spending hours in P45 reading the exact same kind of stuff? I have. And as far as I can tell, Dr. Riddle never has. Never. Not once. But he's the expert. No, he's not. Now, we noticed that there is damage to the ink here and here at the margin, and we see these faint lines, indications of some type of probably liquid damage that has removed some or all of the ink. So the line above what we're looking at right here, this is what the reading would look like. And so when we bring it up here, yep, fits real well. The only difference being, now, did you all, millennials, I don't even know if did this, but when I was in school, we had penmanship classes, both printing and cursive. And I heard back then that if you were writing on an unlined page and your line went upward, that meant you were happy. And if it went downward, it meant you were sad.
That's not what I was told.
You were never told that?
I was told, that's not right, kid.
That doesn't have nothing to do with that's not right, kid. It has to do with something else. So maybe the author was happy because if we look at the line below, oh, that's way, way down below. Yeah, there we go. Right there. That fits pretty well. And this one fits up here. And then here is our line. The end of the line before. And there's where you see an upward on the last two words here. Pontos, tis, hey. What is hey, the And then if we look back here for a second at accordance, and yeah, let's get Alexandrinus out of here and let's blow this up some. We'll get Vaticanus out of here too. How's that? Doesn't get it. All right. So here is the transcription that has been provided of Ephesians 3:9. And I have been very, very, very impressed with the level of accuracy of the transcriptions in P45, because that's what I'm normally looking at, but when I've looked at others as well. Especially when you get to the margins and you get to the damaged areas. There has been transcriptions of materials in damaged areas, and P45 is damaged more than P46 is. Where I was like, yeah, I see how you got that, but wow, that eagle-eyed, man. This is obviously work for someone younger than me. And so you will notice that in the transcription, you have Pontos, tis, hey, that's what we were just looking at. Then oi is in brackets. And then you have konomia to mysterio to, then we go on from there. So where did oi go? Where would oi have been? Well, this is indicating that oi is missing because of the brackets. That's normally due to damage. When you got a little dot underneath it, like that final mu there, that also indicates that there's damage to the manuscript, or just loss of a ink or something along those lines. So, why do I have that up there? I'm sorry. It's supposed to be right there. So, the oi for oikonomia should be right there, because the line goes up. So I'm going to drag this out of the way. Put it on the wrong line anyways. The oi should be right there. Now, I can't really blow it up any more than it's blown up. Go ahead and get it big. They got to be able to see this. No reason to have it small. Okay, so yeah, you got to drag that down a little bit. All right. So you see this right here? Right there and right there. Now leave it right there. Now, if the Omicron iota was there, I'm going to drag the font up. Where would it have been? Right there. So, one of two possibilities. Either what we're seeing in the discoloration is just simply the border of the liquid, because you can see it goes here, around there, and up like this. Just like you have over here, where very clearly letters have been damaged. Now, when scribes wrote on parchment, which is animal skin, this would leave a mark in the animal skin even when you wash the ink off. That's why we can read what are called palimpsest manuscripts, is the nub of the stylus would damage the skin. So even when they took the ink off, the damage was still there, and under certain lights, you can still read that. That's what a palimpsest manuscript is. There are a few palimpsests. Now, papyri isn't identical to that, but when you would write, you would leave some type of indentation. So is it possible that what you see right there is the outer portion, like right there? That's fairly dark. The outer portion of the Omicron, and then there's this line. And when you match, and look, this font has matched up very, very well elsewhere. So if you put it right there, There you go. So there is no, and let's remind ourselves of something. Remember, what we're looking at here is the zoomed in part. But if we go back to, I didn't close that. No. If we go back to P46, look, see, there's where it would be, and here's your outer margin. If I were to draw a line straight down here, that would have been well within that outer margin. In fact, it would look weird if he hadn't continued writing out to that. The margins are regular. The margins are regular. And you'll notice there clearly was writing out here, and look at the damage to the letters here, again from damage over time, water damage. So right here is where oi would be, and that's exactly where the outer margin would be to begin with. So the reason that the professional transcribers of the papyri put oi in brackets and have oikonomia as the reading is because that's the reading. There is no reason, none, to suggest, as Dr. Riddle suggests, this closer look reveals that P46, the earliest manuscript of Ephesians 3:9, is at the least not a clear witness to the oikonomia reading. Textual scholars will suggest the possibility the oi was either omitted by error, no it wasn't, or that it was there and the ink was rubbed away or washed away. CC suggests an alternative, a possibility that the exemplar had koinonia, omicron rather than omega. This would in fact argue in favor of the TR reading of koinonia. This is simply reprehensible from any scholarly perspective. If I had a student suggest this in a paper in one of my text criticism classes, we're going to have a problem. So why is this being done? Because the ultimate authority... To be honest with you, I don't know why Jeffrey Riddle even bothers with this. And maybe after this he won't. I don't know why he even bothers with it. Because he doesn't believe in the TR because of what P46 did or did not say. P46 has all sorts of readings different from the TR. And he rejects all of them. Rejects every single one of them as not being providentially preserved. This is not a historical argument that they're making. It's not based upon evidence. So it doesn't matter. 2817 doesn't matter where Erasmus got it. The point is, Reformed men accepted it, and therefore, because Reformed men accepted it, there you have your stable text. And that's what we should use. It has been providentially preserved. The history doesn't matter. What Erasmus said doesn't matter. What Beza said doesn't matter. What Stephanus said doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the historical origination of this text was. So I don't even know why they're bothering. I really, honestly don't know why they're bothering, other than there's still a part in their mind that goes, I need to. I have to. I can't because it's indefensible, but I can't just simply say accept it because I say accept it. So they do stuff like this. In the same way, 2817, the manuscript that has koinonia, the source that Erasmus used. What if we look at it and find readings that Erasmus didn't use? They don't care. It doesn't matter. That was providence. It's irrelevant. All the factual material. There is no consistency in the argumentation. So if a single manuscript from 11th, 12th century has koinonia in it, no one had ever seen it before. Now, there are a lot of singular readings in manuscripts. For years, decades, over 20 years, I've been teaching on this subject, and one of the basic given things that you say to people is, now, of the variants that actually impact the translation and meaning of the text. There are only a certain number that are viable. You can go back and I'll explain. You can go back right now. You can go back and look at the Trinity Law School presentation. I talk about this. I use the term viability, explain what it means. This is nothing new. And when I say viability means that it could possibly be the original. Now, and I'll use the example. I said, so if we found some 13th century manuscript, and I didn't know about 2017. I was just using it as an example. If we found some 13th century manuscript, and I've made this joke. You'll find this on recordings. I've been doing this forever. So you'll find this on recordings. And I've made the joke. And let's say some poor scribe didn't get to go to Starbucks on his way to work this morning. And so, he's really needing LASIK, and he left his progressive lenses someplace else, which of course he didn't have. And so he makes a mistake today. He's not really paying attention. He puts down the wrong word. And no one's ever seen it before. There are no patristic sources that know about it. There are no translations in other languages that know about it. There are no manuscripts beforehand that have it. It's just a singular error that he makes. Well, it's not viable. It couldn't have been the original. And so we don't even count them in the important variants that we need to be looking at. And there are all sorts of non-viable singular readings in minuscule manuscripts written after 1,000 years after the time of Christ. This is one of them. It's not viable. I really doubt that you could find almost anyone that actually works in this area that would disagree with what I just said, that it's not viable. And yet, because it happens to be picked up by Erasmus and then repeated, now I have not found any evidence as yet. This is something I would like to look into when I have time to. But you got to remember, 99%, 99.99% of the Reformed theologians and scholars that utilized Erasmus, Stephanus, and Beza had no access to manuscripts by which to do collations against the printed text. They were just so thankful to have it. Luther was awful thankful to have it. They're just so thankful to have a mass-produced Greek New Testament. How many of them had any opportunity to do any kind of examination of that text against ancient manuscripts? Nobody. The Complutensian Polyglot, which was sort of the scholar's version, it had been printed before Erasmus. But it didn't come out until after Erasmus because it had to work all the way through all the Vatican's red tape. It didn't have koinonia. It had oikonomia. Did someone notice that? Don't know. But 99.99% of the people you're reading from history would have had no way of doing any type of comparison. So they accepted this reading. They didn't know it was different. These Reformed men, they all... No, they didn't. No, they didn't. The reality is, if Calvin or any of these men were faced with the information that we have presented on the last two programs on this variant, every single one of them to the man would have accepted oikonomia. Every single one of them. To argue that they would have accepted the TR, whatever that would have meant to them, is absolutely without merit. Utterly without merit. So there you go.